On a Sunday morning. This is the one y'all was waiting for. I'm not waiting, I'm just making more. Plotted out, took the time, executed, good design, a finish line. Type of work, it's not done, just out of time. I'm feeling fine. Long road, strong no, this a grind. This a climb for some of us. In and out, double dutch, unpacking what they done to us. Technology numbing us. Think about it, seen it coming up. Records broken, numbers running up. Competition having fun of what? 30 years coming up, haven't done enough. Prize dangling right in front of us. Better lies right up under us. How they rush the capital and run them up. Yeah, trying to raise capital for the month.
Chill. You already know the vibes. No Ordinary Podcast. Every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. You're rocking with your boy KD. And today's special guest, J.O. of the NOC. Man, welcome.
It's good, family.
Chilling, man. Chilling. So this right here is kind of where the podcast started. Me and J.O. kind of get together once a couple times a month, and we kick it, man. We kick it. We talk about what's going on. We usually do whatever, life, government, politics, sports, music, obviously. But here we're gonna try to keep it kind of music focused. But yeah, this kind of where we was just like, man, we do this all the time. We should just start recording it. And a couple years later, here we are. So welcome. I appreciate you being here. And I guess we could start with a little background stuff.
Yeah, J.O. with NOC. No Ordinary Cats. Been doing music, I don't know, 10, 15 years now. Ever since I met you. I had no idea about that in-house production, in-house recording, making music just straight out the apartment, straight from the mud. And I was like, hey, show me how to rap. And it was a rap.
It's a rap. Now he out rap me all the time. So that's what's up, man. So yeah, if you don't know the background story, me and J.O. been about 15 years, almost 20 years making music. Started in humble beginnings of my college apartment, and yeah, we probably done 100 or so shows. I mean, few hundred tracks. Easy, man, easy, and then man, the amount of time and hours in the studio is, we put in our 10,000. That's for sure. So yeah, man, appreciate you rocking. So same for me. If you don't know, just to let you know a little bit. I've been rocking maybe 5 years before Jo started. I was in high school, started making music, and then once I did get to college, had a little home setup. Jo was one of the first few people that I met in college, and he actually came through. He was the one person that I knew that knew every lyric to every song. I was very confused because I'm not good at remembering lyrics. And I was just kind of like, bro, if you know every lyric to every song, why can't you just take pieces of everybody's, put them together and make your own? And obviously, it's not that simple, but that's how we started. That's how he started writing it. Ever since the first song, man, it's just been progressively better. And yeah, I think we did a good job of kind of crafting a sound that's definitely unique, and I think that has learned people have learned to palette our sound, I guess you can say. But yeah, man, it's been a ride, man. It's been a journey.
So talking about the music, but before we get into other things like you, KD, of the NOC, how would you describe your sound, like individually, like KD?
R&B melodies over trap and hip hop drums would definitely be my sound. I like drums. I'm down south. I like bass. I like beats. But I'm an R&B head, so I kind of combine the two, and then obviously I can play off each of the two both ways, right? So I could do something more hip hop sounding, you know, if I need to, with the trap drums, just change up the melodies a little bit, or I can do something more R&B sounding, keep my R&B stylistic of melodies, and then I can change the drums to a R&B feel. So I obviously try to dabble in everything, Spanish music, Latin music, sorry, pop music. I've tried a little bit of reggae, but I'm open and I'm always experimenting and trying new stuff. So, what about you, bro? How you explain your rap style?
I mean, my style is straight old school East Coast. Like my influence is AZ, Nas. Most Def was my favorite rapper for a minute, even though he hasn't been doing music for a minute. But that's what I grew up on. That's what I listened to. That's what I try to like replicate and like show in my like lyricism, stuff like that. I know that's like a dying art form, but I try to keep it alive as much as I can.
I mean, you keeping it alive, but I think I disagree when you say old school as the first thing out of your mouth. Yeah, you got the lyricism, but I feel like the flows ain't been old school for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, the beats drive what I do. So if I'm not rapping over old school beats, I'm not gonna do old school flows. But if you put an old school beat on it, I'm gonna do some '90s
Nice.
shit.
Put a beat on. Somebody put a beat on.
Put a beat on.
Yeah, I feel that. That makes sense. It's also one of those things where I've got to see it firsthand. I've got to see the change stylistically, and just from the bird's eye view, uh, I don't think the beat technically dictates what you're gonna do. I feel like you have a flow. I feel like you have a sound now a little bit more. You have different things you can pull out of the tool belt, but I feel like there's a pretty distinct Jo sound, and I wouldn't say it's an old school hip hop flow.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think, like you said, like because you've been there from the start, you've seen the growth. But I've played my music for people, and they're like, "Oh, okay, you do that rap thing." To me, that sounds like
That's like old
they
school,
probably exactly they expected like something like current, like more contemporary type.
melodic.
Yeah, 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 more than new school stuff. But I could, I like to try new things too, but I like to stick with what I know too, what I like, my preference.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's on brand with us. Is we really kind of just do our thing and then let the music industry do their thing. But so whenever you say you like to do your thing, and I know you did list a couple of influences. Who are the influences now that you're drawing from?
Man, right now on my playlist, I got like Black Thought in there, you know, got MC, I got Lupe in there, I got King Los. Um, I mean that's from a rap perspective. We can stay on rap. Who else I got in there? Jada Kiss. You see like the box that I'm setting, like high lyricism.
No younger cats on that level, high lyricism.
Oh man, the younger cats. I couldn't think of one like off the top of my head. If I hear it, I like it, and I'll try to like continue. But like, I feel like the consistency isn't there yet for the young cats. So it's like,
No young cats you got your eye on or your ear. Just heard something like, all right, I'll keep it top of mind.
I really like King Von. That's more drill though. That's stepping outside my box. But I like the young cats that can story tell. That's what I listen to for them, because I feel like that's another part of the dying art form of hip hop storytelling. People don't really tell stories like that anymore. So the young rappers that can tell stories, I like to listen to them. But no, I don't really like keep them in my playlist like that.
Okay, I mean it's fair. It's fair. It's fair. The old head in the game.
Yeah, man, I gotta keep that lie alive, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I mean it's weird. I don't know if it's something you grow into or I mean it's something I've deliberately definitely fought. I never want to be in that or keeping that lie alive. I guess you can say I'm always.
We've talked about this though. I've asked you like, do you think the new kids right now, 17, 18, 19, Even the kids that grew up on drill, Chief Keef and all that. You think in 10 years they'll continue to listen to that? Like they'll still be into old school Chief Keef and all old school drill, or you think they're gonna
Uh, Unfortunately, I think drill might be around for another 5 to 10 years. I thought it would be a shorter wave than it is, but as it seems to travel city to city, country to country, it finds enough variations that it seems like it's being able to thrive somehow. So I drill I think is a interesting example, uh, but I mean I think end of the day dance music rules. I mean when you're just talking about what's gonna play and what's gonna last, uh, so
dance is ageless. Like 18-year-olds like to dance, 88-year-olds like to dance. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's gonna persist. But the specific trends, like what we grew up listening to, versus what's what's popping in 2024.
but see that's what I'm saying. I feel like you're saying that you can listen to some 90s hip hop right now. I can't listen to 90s hip hop right now, bro. Like it's because it's too much new stuff. Like it's too much stuff still coming out. Like that's the stuff I'm always leaning towards what's trending new. I mean, it's very even rarely like artists I like. I'll go back and listen. Like Chris Brown, as soon as Chris Brown drops a new album, like I'm probably not really listening to the last album that much. There might be a couple songs, but like for the most part, like I'm rocking with the newest of what most people have come out. And if it doesn't have staying power, then most of that stuff doesn't now. I would even tend to say a lot of it doesn't have staying power. I have things that I like, but as far as like staying power where you just keep hearing that song for years and years and years constantly played, there's not too much out there.
What do you think? What do you think about the state of R&B right now?
Man, I don't think I think whatever the state of R&B is, it's not a true representation of the state of R&B. Because I think the state of R&B is thriving. As far as thriving, as far as the the artists getting paid and making money, maybe not. But as far as a music genre in the whole as a whole, I believe it's the fundamental music genre in the world right now. I think if you look at anything at any genre, what they're trying to do right now is somehow incorporating more of a rhythm and blues feel to it. There was a time where maybe 5 years ago, 5 to 7 years ago, it seemed like everybody started doing the kind of world music dance wave, right? Now you're hearing a lot of dance hall, reggae, reggaeton type beats. Um, but even a lot of that was still based in even the drill, like drill, those triplet hi hat patterns and stuff like that. All that started in R&B. R&B has always been on the cutting edge of what's creative in music. So even if it's not getting the credit and the shine, trust me, everybody's pulling from it and taking their little piece and running with it.
Yeah, like you said, with the rhythmic sounds that's basically infusing everything. Even country has a little bit of that rhythm in it now, that rhythm and blues in it. But I'm talking about like the R&B that we grew up on. What happened to the groups like the Drew Hills,
It don't make money.
Jagged Edge?
They don't make money. It's the same for all groups. That's why the only groups right now is K-pop. It's because in Korea they can pay them very very little money and let them make very very good music. So if you can't split, you got to split the money between 4 and 5 people. It's just not gonna work. Not when they're paying the artist like as if they were one artist. You're getting the same a group of 5 people getting the same budget as a solo artist is just not gonna work. It was never a good model. The Lou Pearlman documentary just came out, and I'm gonna try to check that out. I don't have a Netflix account, but I'm gonna get it somehow. But I hear it's pretty bad. So, but yeah, I don't think that model was ever sustainable.
Lou Pearlman, that was like the manager to all these people.
NSYNC and what's the other one?
98 Degrees,
Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet.
Backstreet Boys. Not. I don't think he was. I don't know if he was 98 Degrees, but I know Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, like that motto was just never meant to succeed. It was meant to succeed for the manager, for the execs, for the record label, right? But anytime you can get 5 people to come work for you for very little money, that's it's probably going to be advantageous for you. So
There's that aspect of it, right? The group, like you're saying, like economically, that it wasn't just viable for a long term. But even the R&B, like the singers, though, like the Whitney Houstons, I'm talking
nah, I mean,
about
Keisha Cole's song "Love" was probably top 5 trending song last year.
last year.
Love
Oh, I
me
know the song,
water.
but
Yeah,
that song
no.
came out like
It
10 years
came out
ago.
in every last year, every high school dance, high school graduation, these middle school dances, these little kids is huddled around singing Keisha Cole "Love" at the top of their lungs.
Okay, so the point is that it's still people are looking for it, but where is the new Keisha Cole? Where is the who's making the new love record? That's a 10-year-old song. Why isn't someone making that?
I think that probably hits more on songwriting. There's there's a million talented singers on the internet. So it's not a matter of finding the right artist. It's a matter of finding the right song. You had Coco Jones with "I See You" went crazy. You had Mooney Long. What was that one? Over and over again. What was I forgot. Mooney Long had one that went crazy. Twin went crazy. Where have you been? Tim's. So all her stuff went crazy. It's a little more reggae, but it's still R&B. What's the young girl? Tyler Water. Chris Brown. All Chris Brown stuff went crazy. It's just not. It's definitely not conducive, I think, to um, formatted radio anymore. And I definitely don't think it is conducive to a lot of everyday activity anymore. I would say I feel like back in the day, we spent a lot more time in intimate situations, right? So you're just at home with the family. We always talk about it, right? Songs on a Sunday morning is kind of a product of us understanding what Sunday mornings in our households look like growing up. And it definitely had music was there, number one. You know what I mean? So,
Even the friendships, like uh, being in a room with your friends, just listening to music for hours, or listening to that new album release, like having a listening party, like that doesn't really exist right now because the way people let's go into that direction. How people consume music today. Music is not the primary. It's the background to content.
right, it's a commodity. You know, it's like water. It's everywhere, bro.
But talk about how that like now your direction as an artist, what has changed now that you understand how people are consuming music? How have you changed your approach?
Yeah, you use it as it's being used, and I think it's honestly to an advantage if you can work it the right way. So obviously the podcast is a way to spread wide, and if you can build a wider foundation as a creator, then it's easier to simply infuse your music into more places, almost unbeknowingly, I guess you could say. So that's the direction that I'm trying to push my music is creating content and then making sure my music is featured in that content. Content goes viral now, music doesn't go viral. But if your music happens to be in a piece of content that goes viral, you're straight. So I mean, and it's I think the other thing, excuse me, that's kind of funny is a lot of times now when we do see an artist that kind of comes from the ground up and doesn't really come out of the social media play, we almost first thing they say is industry plant. It's like almost not even credible to just come through the old school way just with your music. It's almost like when you're presenting your music to people now, there has to be a video content aspect, and not only that, but a personal brand, personal identity aspect of gripping the listener in. So people don't. It's hard for people, and maybe it is. the consumer that has changed, but it's very hard for people to be discovered through their music. It's more likely you be discovered through a piece of content on the internet. That person will find out you do music and then discover your music. So it's new, it's different, but end of the day, I think it's kind of funny now. I think you kind of see people starting to realize what's happened with TV, right? To where now, instead of paying one price to one person and getting a whole bunch of channels, now you're paying a bunch of different people for a very few amount of channels, subscriptions. So there was this thing where it's like, I remember back in the day, you used to have a satellite and it's like you got 800 channels and you're like, oh, there's no way I need all these channels. Why am I paying for all of these channels, you know? But now it's like, all right, I only need 5 channels, but I got to go to 5 different platforms to get them and pay each one. So which one was worse and which one was better? So I think it's ebbs and flows. It's cyclical, just like everything else. And the way that the consumer is consuming music right now, at some point, it's gonna go back to closer to what it was. So ride the wave and then trying to stay in front of the wave, right? Trying to stay in front of the break, of the wave. I think is how I'm looking at uh, putting my music out into the world.
So what you think it will go back to um like an artist that could put out music that will last for 6 months before then they had to put out the next record?
Hmm. I don't think that might necessarily be the case. I think it might be a more of a situation where an artist can afford to do that, understanding that this is a different era in music, and it's not about being the one; it's about being one of many.
Because the industry plant thing, I was thinking about that real quick. uh, you're right. Like if someone comes out and it's just straight music, like yeah, you might say industry plant, where'd you come from? How'd you do this? But it's really about consistency and longevity, right? Like if they can do that for the, because usually when you see an industry quote unquote plant, it's someone that pops up and in a year or two they're gone, right? Like
Sometimes, but for the most part, yeah.
you're saying that industry plant could sustain for like a decade.
I'm saying there's people that have come into the game with that label who have been able to sustain.
Give me an example of one.
Um, I think Post Malone is a good example.
But I feel like Post Malone changed, like he came out one way, and I feel like right now he transformed into something else that has allowed him to be to have that longevity. Like he saw the he's I don't think he's an industry plant because he saw the environment. He's like, oh yeah, I need to do this. Where I think industry plants that they're like, hey, come out and do this, and this is what you're gonna do for as long as you can. We're gonna drain you, and then we're gonna throw you away.
I don't know his story enough, but from the outside in, I think somebody told him to put those cornrows and those gold teeth in his mouth.
His look, are you saying?
I don't think he made that decision on his own. And I know a lot of times with females in the industry, what you'll see is, which is obviously natural because of age, but you'll see the good girl going bad. That's the trajectory you usually see with females. They start a female doing pop, nice, light, almost childlike type music, and then as she grows, and obviously a marketing strategy, so she grows with her audience and to more a bigger fan base, but she gets a little bit more and more adult, risque, whatever you want to call it. But good girl gone bad is kind of the trajectory for a lot of females in the industry they're kind of put on that path. And I think for dudes, well, not dudes, but Post Malone specifically, only other person I've seen kind of do the Post Malone thing effectively would be Justin Bieber, which if you look at the female theory of good girl bad gone bad, I feel like it's the kind of same thing, right? They had Bieber, doing the pop kitty stuff, and then slowly he started getting a little bit more adult. But when they really wanted to turn on the hey adult, I'm a grown bad boy, that's when he would do his R&B, Usher, urban style music. And then the next album, he would go back into his pop, his popular music that's for everybody. And then he would just fluctuate between the two. And I just think that's smart managing from Usher. But with Post, I believe it was more of a trajectory of, I don't know. It worked. It worked. I can't say White Iverson didn't work, but I think White Iverson is a terrible song still to this day. And just listening to it, when I heard it, I was just like, I don't see this artist going anywhere. I don't see them doing too much. It seems like they're trying to kind of jump on a trend and just ride a wave. And that to me is kind of where the industry plant label came from. Whether it's true or not, at this point, I feel like what you do see is the music that he likes to make is not that. I think you see the music he authentically likes to make is more rock, country, pop than it is hip hop, trap, R&B stuff. So not that he was an industry plant, but it was a well orchestrated and planned way to attack the industry. So
Yeah, I think the way you explained it specifically for Post Malone, it like that strategy is like it's a strategy that most artists would want. Be able to do something that is revenue generating to keep you viable. If you can do, because let's not make it sound like it's so easy to just jump on a trend and be successful, because it's not. It really takes, like, to your point, I guess, being an industry plant, how has he stayed so successful doing stuff that he doesn't even want to do? Because that's not easy. If it was, everyone would do it. Everyone does try to do it. Everyone isn't successful doing it. So it's like, I think that is the strategy, especially from a corporate standpoint. Hey, we want you to do these type of songs. Like for instance, I don't know, name any rapper. The first song that comes out, Cassidy. Cassidy is battle rap, hardcore lyrics. His first song that popped was some song with R. Kelly. Come to the hotel. He doesn't want to do that type of songs, but that's the songs that they're like, hey, we need you to do this, and then you can do this other stuff. So that strategy of, like, do what's trendy and what's popular, it's a lot of artists' approach. I don't think that industry plan. I don't know if that's what that is for them. People like Justin Bieber though, and those girls that you're saying girls gone bad. People that start young, and then turn a leaf. That's like industry trees. Like, those people are just like they're meant to do that for a long time, from young. Like, these people found these people. They fit the look, they fit the image, and they're like, yeah, we can make this be a viable source of, like I say, revenue for a long time. So I think those two examples are different. Post Malone's example, like I say, like, I think a lot of artists would want that, be able to do that.
yeah, I agree that they're different, and I would say even in both cases, it's not a matter of the person being a quote plant. It's a matter of, like you said, the industry or the label they're with nurturing them as they should to grow. So I wasn't saying I see those people as a quote unquote industry plant, but I'm saying they get the label of industry plant. And I think the reason why Post got that label is because he, I, I think the white rapper is an interesting thing. And I think there's a threshold that if you can break over as a white rapper, you can easily separate yourself from a lot of the crowd because you have a slightly larger demographic. So
Not even slightly.
not even slightly,
Not even slightly.
you know what I mean? So, but like you said, it's not like everybody can do it. It's not like they every white rapper is successful. That's not how it goes. But I also think that's where kind of the industry plant thing is kind of referring to. It's not referring to uh, whether or not this person can pull this off. but it's uh, how did you get so much validity so quickly within a community that you're not necessarily a part of? So literally, it's because you have certain industry connections, you can be planted into a certain situation, even though you're not really from that type of a situation. And I think that's what is meant by industry plant. Um, I guess it's kind of like saying, we were talking earlier about how when people say the phones are listening to you, it's like, it's not true. Like, there's somebody behind it targeted marketing you, but they do use the phone to get that data. So there's a part truth to it, which is the element that kind of keeps that perpetuated. So I think that's the thing with the industry plant is I think a lot of normal people can't separate how industry and labels normally work and operate with artists and what they would consider somebody being put into a situation or planted into a situation uh, that they necessarily a community that they necessarily weren't involved in or that they weren't groomed and developed in. And obviously, in some situations, like especially if you're talking about like the white rapper, you don't know. You don't know what that person's background was, what they're growing up, how they grew up. But with Post Malone, it's almost a Takashi type situation where it's like, nah, we have receipts. We see who you were in high school. We see the type of music, the type of look you had, what you were doing when you were younger, and you are not part or from that community or industry part of the industry. So I think that's where the quote unquote plant part comes in, not necessarily that they did it or were able to pull it off at all.
But remember, like you were saying, being a white rapper gives you slightly greater chance of not even slightly a much greater chance of being able to be successful. Um, Giving that label or stamp of being from whatever community or whatever background, does that even how does that matter when it comes to being super successful? Because really the people that are going to be able to give you that success, they're probably not even from there. So how does that tie into all that?
Mm-hmm. And that's why I say it's kind of a threshold thing, right? I think you have to look at the actual numbers. I think that's the thing that people don't do. People can look at what's portrayed, what this artist is portraying as success, but when you actually look at the numbers, you'll understand that whoever the top rapper is still only number 10, 8, 9, 10 on the list of artists top streaming, in the world. Those are all pop artists. Those are pop or world artists that are in your top 10 as far as streaming. Most of your rappers won't be in your top 10. They won't even be in your top 20. So, the rappers do a better job of, I don't even want to say they do a better job of portraying success. Obviously, we've talked about it, but just to give people context, the reason why rappers do a lot of flossing and showing off what they have is because they are able to attain it. And that's usually because they write their own lyrics versus other industries. The artist is not writing their own lyrics and someone else is writing those lyrics for them, which also means the artist isn't getting as much money. Versus in hip hop, the artists are usually writing their own lyrics, and therefore they're not only getting their artist side, but they're getting their writer side. So there's a reason why they usually tend to have a little more quote unquote money. But when you look at the actual success rate of the music they're putting out, like I said, the hip hop genre isn't necessarily what I would say as the genre altogether successful, but as far as putting individual artists at the top, that's not what it does. So
How do you feel about um that topic of writing your own lyrics versus not? How do you personally feel? Do you think it matters? Do you care? Is it important?
I'm not. I mean, I'm not a rapper, so it doesn't matter to me. You've written lyrics for me.
Have you ever written lyrics for anybody?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Ariel is Anxiety out on all platforms, written and produced by your boy.
Has anyone ever written lyrics for you? Oh, you just
You,
other than
yeah,
me,
you
other
you
than
don't
me.
you you the only person.
Uh,
I'm saying I've done some of Sosa's lyrics. You know, I've had lyrics that he didn't write them for me, but I performed his lyrics a million times. You know.
so that I mean, uh, obviously I know you, so I know like you're creatively you can obviously do all that. But for a person that 100% they just get delivered content, lyrical content, or yeah, songs, and they just all they have to do is execute on the performance. Does that matter to you?
Have you ever seen Salt Bay cook a steak?
Salt Bay,
You remember the guy that went trending?
yeah,
Yeah, you ever seen him cook a steak?
I don't think so.
Nope. They bring it out, and my boy do his thing, and what that means that if he's not cooking the steak, he's got to be that good at delivering that performance to the table. So as long as you're that good at delivering the performance to the table, I don't care if you cook the steak or not.
The ends uh justify the means. In other words, it doesn't matter how you get to the end, as long as the end is a 10. So back to the piece about you know my you know how I look at hip hop. You know, I'm the type um you gotta write your own stuff, in my opinion. From a rap perspective specifically, uh, because if you're not writing your own stuff, it's like, I don't know. To me, the means, like, I like to see the process. I like to understand that you are the owner of your process. So if not, then it's like you can be replaced. You know, the value you're adding, unless you're the top like Michael Jacksons of the world, which is, you know, how many, what is the new Michael Jackson? Is there a new Michael Jackson? I think your opinion of Chris Brown is up there with talk about that. Talk about your comparison of Chris Brown and Michael Jackson.
I mean, it's the closest comparison we got for sure. If you ever seen a show just dancing and singing, there's no other artists that are really doing it at that level. But real quick, before we can get in that could be a whole show for me. But let's circle back because I think it might be uh kind of full circle with kind of how we were talking about it. With hip hop is a very it's a certain expression. It's an expression, art expression that's rooted in a cultural experience. And I don't think many other genres can make that claim. American music, that's your own fault. That's your own fault. You can't make that claim because y'all took it all. Y'all took country, you took rock, you took and you had the chance to make it your own, and you just didn't. Versus hip hop, I feel like is one of those things where it is a very specific representation of culture as art. And so, full circle wise, that might be a reason why you don't see the top artist being a hip hop artist, is because it's such a small niche amount of people that can relate to it. And I'm not just talking about hip hop as a whole, but then I'm talking about once you break it down artist to artist to artist, right? So there's this reason why you want the artist to be the one that's portraying the lyrics, is because in hip hop it's more important that you are being authentically accurate than it is that what you're doing is necessarily the best. People want to know that what you're saying is an authentic experience. And I think that's partly because so many other genres, they realize that it is people writing behind the scenes that this artist might not necessarily feel like they're saying. So I feel like there's a certain connection that hip hop gives people because the consumer does feel like there's validity behind this person actually had this experience. Now we know that's not true. We know that's not how it really go, but I do think that is part of the hip hop experience, and that might be a reason why it is a little bit more segmented and can't reach such a general, broad, large base of people. Is because the experience is so refined and niche to a specific cultural experience.
And it's funny because I think that is specifically about hip hop, the music, because the hip hop elements, the graffiti, the dancing, like the DJing, all that has spread internationally. Like it's almost like the world has been taken over by hip hop. Like you think about what's going on in like Asian countries, like they love b-boy, they love Wu-Tang, they love like they. It's like the world is a little bit behind in terms of what hip hop is, but they love what they love about hip hop and those elements that I'm talking about more than any other quote unquote genre of music. Hip hop has grown its tentacles and like invaded the rest of the world culturally, minus the music piece, like you're saying. Like the music is still not number one, but everything else about hip hop, definitely the like commercials nowadays. It, the background music is usually some sort of rap song. You look at sports, um, all this, not just American sports, like soccer internationally. Like all those dudes, they love hip hop music. They love rap music. I don't know. I feel like hip hop culturally is definitely the I don't know if it's a trend right now, but it's everywhere. And just like I say, minus the music piece, everything else hip hop has invaded for sure, in my opinion, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with it, and I think it's for the same reason. It's that authentic representation of an experience that is hard to find in a lot of places. But I mean, I simply think that that's the mentality of somebody that understands the hip hop cultural experience, and that mentality is I don't have anything to lose. I ain't got nothing to lose. I'm putting it all out here. There ain't no safety net. And I think everybody relates to that in some way throughout their life, no matter where they're from. So I think it's a cultural experience that people can relate to regardless.
So with all this knowledge you have, all this experience, I know you're an artist and you do the production, but you also like I don't want to say a manager, but you definitely mentor and you give your experiences. Like what do you tell the young artists that you work with about like their approach and their strategy, what their strategy should be?
I mean, right now, geez, man, we just had an hour long conversation about this before we start stream. But right now, man, it's meet yourself where you're at. I think the best synopsis I can give of the conversation we were having is that uh, A&Ring artists and repertoire is not a job anymore because it requires so much attention to things that are not music. So I would say the same with managing the artist. There's so much you're dealing with that has nothing to do with music that whenever you even say, "What am I telling them about the music?" I'm telling I'm telling them, don't worry about the music. That's what I'm telling them right now. Don't worry.
That's what the people need to hear then.
Don't worry about the music. The music is the last thing you should be worried about, especially if you are a true musician, a true creative, a true artist. You're going to make the art. You're going to make the music. You're going to make the content. Or I shouldn't say content. You're going to make the art. So right now, it's more about making content, and so telling them not focus on the music, focusing on the business side, right? Focusing on the content side, because without the business side, you can't sustain doing this thing you love, not at the rate and level that you want to do it. So I tell them the music will come. We'll worry about the music later. I tell them start developing your art, your brand as a business, start operating as a business would. And then I tell them meet themselves where they are. So if you're somebody that naturally just likes to go in your room and write a billion songs, record two or three of them, and then never put them out, you like to write. So your content should be centered around you writing. It shouldn't be centered around you recording, and it shouldn't be centered around you putting it out because you're probably not going to do those things. So every time that you sit down and write, you turn your camera on and you make content. If you're the type of person that walks around all day and is just singing, no matter where you're at, you could be on the train, walking down the street, in a restaurant, and you just want to sing. You like performing. You won't write, you won't put out a song, you won't record a song, but you love to sing all the time. Meet yourself where you're at. Turn on your camera while you're singing, while you're walking around. Meet yourself where you're at. So don't try to force yourself to do something that you naturally aren't gonna want to do unless you're a high end performer. Because if you are a high end performer, then you can make yourself do things you don't want to do and still be okay. I just think most people probably aren't built like that. So meet yourself where you're at. Don't try to reinvent anything. Don't try to do anything new. Meet yourself where you're at. Start there, and that's my advice to the younger artists. Unfortunately, I wish it was just easy enough to be like, hey man, just make music. Go make music. But that's not the time we live in.
Just think about what when we were, trying to, get on and, pursuing the music thing, at the bullet train. We were going to the radio stations, doing live performances on the radio, probably trying to sign to some label. To today, that approach is that's an old school approach, right? Like that doesn't really exist anymore today. That's not necessary. It's not even like the smartest thing to do.
Nah, I disagree. I would say that's still the smartest thing to do. I think people see social media, but like they don't understand it. It's such a it's just a tool. You know what I mean? It's not social media isn't going to be the end all be all. It's just a tool to use. But I think that old school approach is still the right approach, which is basically try to be everywhere. You're trying to hit radio, you're trying to hit live performance, you're trying to make sure you have a social media presence. But that's all that old school approach was spreading yourself out to all three avenues, right? It's those have stayed the same. Making music off recording music, making music off of performing music, right? And then making music off of, hopefully radio, which that's a whole nother thing. So music sales, radio, and live performance have always been the staple as far as how you're gonna make your money in the music industry as an artist. So I don't think that changes. Now you just have a couple more extra things you can do, right? When you do go to the radio station, you should be recording, broadcasting live for your internet. When you do have the live performance, you should be taking photos and videos for the internet. So it's not changing anything you're doing. The internet is just an access point for fans to see what you're doing now. I mean, we did have internet. We didn't have social media to the effect that it was when we were doing it. Social media was around. We're not that old, but the power of social media wasn't like it was then, or isn't like it is now. Um, and uh, and so yeah, I don't think you're changing the formula. I just think you added social to the formula.
Okay, that makes sense. Um, so what you tell them is try to do a little bit of everything, but also focus on what you do and just highlight what you do. So if you're not a performer, obviously don't highlight the performance. If you're, like you say, in the bed writing, highlight your writing, focus on your writing.
Well, not that you shouldn't be highlighting those things, but it's just like I think content creation is such a big hang up for artists. It's very hard for them to get started in that arena. Like they know they should be recording live performance. They know that. Like if there's a lot of artists, if the only time they're gonna have a camera person, it's gonna be at the live performance. They know to do that much, but it's the other stuff that don't necessarily translate as far as I think a lot of it is old school mentality, right? Like we think old people are only interested in the live performance. That's why we record the live performance. But no, people are interested in the process now. Like people want to see behind the scenes now almost more than they want to see the live performance. They want to see the day to day now more than they want to see the live performance. They want to listen to you talk more than they want to listen to your music now. So I don't think I'm telling them to only do it during the stuff they like to do, but to get started, it's going to be easier and less thinking and planning involved if you do it with something that you're doing more often. It also be more sustainable for social media since you need consistent content if you're doing something that you're doing it very often. Most people aren't performing even once a week, so to be worried about them recording their performance is the last thing they should be recorded about. Find that thing you do every day that you can record and make content out of.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That's good advice for new artists. How do you feel about working with a not so young new artist?
Got a couple of those.
Does that change what you tell them? Does that do you have a different same thing?
Nah, that's the same thing. That's again back to the conversation we was having. It's 30-year-olds on their grind. It's 25-year-olds on their grind. It's an 18-year-old out there on. It's a 15-year-old out there on their grind. The age don't matter. Uh, Unfortunately, like I said, the A&R, the management thing tends to be more about life skills and developing people as people than it is honestly about the music. So if you know, working with older artists, I think if anything, there's just less sympathy. I mean, like you at a certain age, all right, I can tell you, but you gotta know to do this for yourself. I can understand if you're 21 years old, and you've never had gone through the process of building something, systems and infrastructure for any kind of business. That makes sense. I should have more patience and lenience, towards that. But with the older artists, I tell people, you ain't lying to me, you lying to yourself. So you could tell me you're gonna show up to the studio all you want. I'm gonna be here, but you can keep telling me you're gonna show up. That goes for younger artists, older artists. I can't teach somebody how to care. I can't teach somebody how to be motivated, and I can't teach someone how to be disciplined. So that's not an age thing. That's a mindset and a mentality thing.
You think there's an expiration date specifically, I guess, on rap artists?
Nah, nah. Big Sean just dropped a song today about fatherhood. So I think that's what you see with hip hop now, is it is getting older.
Like what happened to Andre 3K though? What like flutes?
That's just maturity, man. That's his mature. That's how he matured, bro. Like, every music producer and A&R don't turn into Rick Rubin and doing all the wild meditation and da 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 da. You know what I mean? That's just how he matured and how he developed. So I mean, Jay-Z, like if Jay-Z drops right now, we still going to hear what Jay-Z got to say.
That was gonna be my next question.
If 3,000 drop right now, we still going to hear what he got to say. We listen to the flutes. I listen to the flutes. I listen to the whole thing.
Me too.
Knew it was flutes and listened to the whole thing. So
I was on a freestyle over it.
I heard a couple people do some stuff over it. It was fair. But yeah, I mean that's the maturity of anything. You can't control how that happens.
Yeah, I guess it's the own like it's the person, right? Like Andre 3K, he thinks he's done. But like you said, if he were to drop some hip hop project tomorrow, it's gonna get a million views, million spins, whatever you want to call that. But him as a and I've seen some interviews where he's like, I'm too old. And it's like that's just you, man. That's
That's
just
just
how
you.
you feel about it.
That's how you feel, bro. And honestly, I mean, to think about it, the last 3-4 verses Andre put out, it's still like, yo, like what, like, and and that's the thing. Even though it's old, it's still so different than what anybody else is doing. It's still refreshing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
He could put an age on it if he want, but at the end of the day, the music itself is, she, it's still fire. So
He's one of those artists that his consistency is stamped, and he can come out whenever, put out one every 2 years if you want, one every 3 years. You're gonna it's gonna be good. It's gonna be probably economically good. Like, but I don't know that. Like I say, like that's the own person's thought. I think Jay-Z even thinks that. I feel like Jay-Z thinks that it's over for him.
I don't. You know what I think, man? I think those guys have fallen in love with other things. I think that's all. That's what I'm noticing even with myself. Like as much as I love creation and music, I'm starting to fall in love with more of the business, managerial structure, infrastructure, record label, obviously. Those things are starting to catch my attention a little bit more. Um, and I just think art is so subjective. There's so many different ways to go. There's always a million ideas floating around in the ether. and you kind of understand as an artist that you could always go back and draw from that anytime you need to. So the art will be there, but the opportunity to develop in an aspect such as business, you don't, you know, there might be a little bit of time on that, time expiration on that. So I think those guys just I know Jay-Z in that example. I think he fell in love with business. I think he's always loved business more than he probably loved art. So as long as he has that to sustain and satisfy him, then I think he's good.
And then alternatively, there's artists that the business was so unkind that they're like, I'm not doing this anymore. Thinking about Mos Def, right? Like the way he went away from music wasn't because he didn't like music anymore. It's literally the business of music is what turned him off from doing more music.
It wasn't. I mean, I don't necessarily know the exact reason. I felt like it was more just like an industry thing. Like he didn't just like the industry. Because I guess I would say that too for older artists is like, as an older artist, bro, I'm not trying to go perform at hip hop events. Like I'm not trying to be around that type of energy, that type of motion. Like it's there's no need, honestly. And I
I
guess
mean, look
maybe
at
it's
Wu
just,
Tang though. Wu Tang still to this day.
bro, the Wu Tang was one of the last concerts that I went to and I thoroughly enjoyed watching Jizza. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like I still ain't really necessarily trying to be around that type of energy like that. Man, bro, like I'll never forget that night. We getting ready to perform after Jizza, which is crazy, but we're getting ready to perform.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
we're
crazy.
back. We're backstage, and you know, I mean, the whole place is fogged out, smoke everywhere. It's 2 a.m. Obviously, everybody drunk and litty, but the vibe in that place was crazy. Like I've never really felt energy like that at any other place, and that wasn't necessarily like the same energy I'm talking about. Like that was almost like a high level energy, but like the normal typical hip hop event energy, bro. I'm not really trying to subject myself to that for no reason. I mean, when literally like there can happen, bro. Like unfortunately, like shit happens, and it's like that's not worth.
But that's not, I don't think that's the energy of hip hop. That's just like those specific.
That's the end. Yeah, that's the energy of down south hip hop right now. Maybe I'm not speaking for. I mean, up north, I feel like up north the same thing. It's just young wild nigga energy. That's what I'm talking about. Young
Like
wild.
if Jay Z puts on a show, that's not going to be the energy that I'm trying
Correct.
to say.
Correct.
Like if there's if Andre if Outkast puts on a show, that's not going to be the energy.
100%. I agree. But at the same time, like I say, I wouldn't want to perform at those shows because I'm not at that level, and I would have to deal with that energy. So like it's not. I agree with you. If Jay puts on the show, it's gonna be a whole different type of vibe. You know what I mean? But I still don't think even like most said when you're saying like the how the business is done, like all of that stuff just kind of gets to a point to where it's nah, I'm too old, especially if you have success. I'm too old and successful to feel like I want to deal with that. You know what I mean? Unfortunately there's a low level presence that reared its head in hip hop music. Obviously that wasn't how it was supposed to be in the beginning and how it kind of started out, but over time, there's definitely a certain type of energy that rears its head in those situations. And that's the thing, like if I go to an event, like I'm there for almost like a spiritual reasoning. You know what I mean? Like I need those vibes. I need that vibe of everybody just being together, singing songs. Like I go to R&B concerts, bro. I'm gonna tell y'all dudes right now, y'all sleep, man. If you a dude out there, obviously a single dude, I ain't trying to put people on blast, but if you a single dude out there and you ain't going to R&B concerts, bro, you sleep, man. You sleep, cause
Now the best concert I went to ever in life was an R&B concert.
yeah, you sleep. The vibe is just totally different. It's a bunch of chicks in there all singing and chilling, bro. Like it's good energy. The energy is way different than when you go. I mean, them the same chicks that go out to the hip hop shows. So it's not like it's not in them, but just in a certain environment is different. It's the same for your pop shows. I'll probably say it's probably the same for a Drake show. You know, I mean, we seen what happened to Rick Ross, but that wasn't a Drake show. But you know what I mean? I would feel like it's probably similar. Like you go to Drake show, it's more vibes, chilling, everybody, you know, just trying to drink and have a good time. Versus for some reason, I ain't gonna say for some reason. Let's be honest. If your music talking about kill, 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 drill, 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 scam, 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 drugs, 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 what's the vibe gonna be? So I mean, it is what it is, and I think unfortunately that dominates a lot of the lower tier hip hop artists events, and yeah, that ain't it, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. I just when you were asking me about what young artists I liked, I think that partly has to do with it, right? I said I like the storytellers. So if you're not telling a story, you're probably talking about what you just described, right? Like a lot of lower level type of or image like still maturing into like I was saying, like, do you think the people that listen to drill today are going to continue to listen to drill in 10 years? I don't, I personally don't think so. I think they're going to be like, I'm past this.
I think people get stuck, bro. I think people get stuck. I see a lot of old heads out there still singing
A lot of them?
old hip hop. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. But that might be particular to hip hop, maybe, and we can talk about it real quick in other genres. But the old hip hop nigga is a thing. Like that's definitely a thing. They out there. Old hip hop niggas is out there, bro. Like, and they stick to their guns, boy. They not getting off of it. So like, but like I was at the Linkin Park tribute band concert last night. It's literally a cover band for a rock band that's not around anymore, and that thing was sold out. And most of I was surprised. I thought it was probably about 60-70% older people, and then you had a 30% who was like, all right, you too young to know this music. But they came with their parents. You know
Mm.
what I mean? So it's like, did those people mature out of the music they were listening to? Nah, they still listening to the same thing. Like I think it's gonna be the same. Like it's just like every generation as they get older, they are told these new kids they talking about some wild, wild, wild. That's every generation that's come along before you and after you. Next generation was talking about something wild that you just couldn't even fathom. Like how are they talking about this? And I just think to that generation it don't seem that wild because I remember for our generation whenever they was talking about you know tip drills and pee popping and like it didn't seem that wild to us. But now you Ice Spice, you hear some of her stuff and it's like, what? Like, what did she just say? So I think it's just a part of maturing, but I don't think them old heads gonna stop listening to that drill music. I think they still gonna be drilling.
I think for a while, hip hop had the stigma of once you reach a certain age, it's over for you. And people would always make the comparison of all these other genres, these older acts can tour forever and people will come out and see them forever. But, why is it in hip hop that once you
Touring
hit
is
40?
different. Touring is different, and live music is different in hip hop. It's way different when you got a live band. When you got a live band, you still displaying musicianship.
But I think what I was going to say, I think that stigma is kind of fading away. Because I think the older hip,
Them old hip hop people ain't on stage. They're not on stage. They
you just
ain't.
said, you just said Jizza.
Yeah, that was he ain't on even Jizz ain't on stage like that. You know what I mean?
Oh,
That was probably
you told me the story.
1 of 10 shows that he did. You know what I mean? Now to me it was a great performance, but you know he he probably do about 10 shows a year. You know what I mean? So I don't. That's not. I mean, they popping out. They popping out and doing stuff as they can, but they not in demand like that. I think honestly, if you really wanted to know after kind of doing it and experiencing a little bit, a lot of those acts ended up kind of falling in with almost like a rock type crowd.
Which acts?
The Jizzas, the Wu Tangs, the 3 6 Mafias. Um, Trying to think of some other people that I kind of performed with that were kind of in that lane. As far as older, everybody else was maybe a little bit younger and kind of still in their prime. But as far as the older acts, even yeah, like KRS-One. Like when we did KRS-One, when we did Jizza, when we were doing Project Pat, they were at like rock bars. They weren't really at like, and for that matter, are how many hip hop bars are there? How many truly strictly hip hop venues are there? You know, so that's another reason why like you can't expect these acts to keep going on if they don't have a place where they can go. You know, New York is famous, right? The Tunnel. Like you know, you have a place where like people are known to,
which is closed,
right, infamously go to listen to hip hop. You know what I mean? So it's like you don't have that. So it's not really a surprise that as they get older, they can't really book out certain places.
and the reason you don't have that is because you don't have the audience for it. Because if you had the audience for it, obviously you would have it. So the it's consumer driven. Everything's consumer driven, right? Like,
I
and
agree. I just think what a consumer is gonna pay for is, like I said, whenever you have rock music, you have people on stage playing live instruments. People are gonna be way more willing to pay for that than somebody that's over a backtrack, and that's any time in history or genre. The effect of live music is just it's undeniable, and I think it's only gonna get more prominent. I was talking backstage with a musician last night, and you know, with AI and da da da, like that's what people are gonna crave for, that live authentic experience versus the electro experience. You know, so I think that's where hip hop falls short. I've been saying it. Every hip hop performance should be performed with a live band. It don't even make sense. I mean, I understand it from an economic system, since they don't want to pay the band, but at the same time, the elevation that it takes, like if you're a hip hop artist, R&B artist, if you never perform with a live band, change your life. It'll change your live performance forever. Like you'll never want to perform with a backtrack ever again. The
at the
energy,
roots.
the energy level is 0 to 100. Like I can't even give you a smaller gap in that. The energy level when you have a live band behind you is 0 to 100. So you know, there's a difference when you have live music involved.
100% agree with that. Uh, I mean, we can go a lot of different ways. What do you want to do?
We're gonna wrap it up, man. We had an hour. We're gonna call it. We'll do it again. But
Good episode. Good episode.
yeah, man, no ordinary podcast. This is what we do. This not what we do, but this is one of the things that we do.
It's
Yeah,
not
we
what I
just
do.
yeah. Yeah, this ain't what we do, but we gonna get it done. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, man, this dope. This is rocking. Y'all will see Jo on here. He'll be popping in time to time, just to, like I said, chill and get into the state of the industry. So appreciate you being here. Make sure you go
Sir.
follow him. All socials, Jo of the NOC, streaming platforms, Jo of the NOC. And just a quick second, shout out Skinny Buddha as usual. The fam, skinnybuddha.com. Make sure you go check them out. Lifestyle brand out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Clothing, music, artwork. They have a blog. They have CBDC gummies. You go check them out, man. They got it all. Also, shout out to Digivox, Danny Avito. If you need a CRM, go check him out. He has an incredible program I've been using. Um, that's Digivox. I'll leave the link down low in the description. Shout out to Tracks 96.7 WTEG Radio, online radio station, and partner of the show. And yeah, man, we're gonna wrap this thing up. We appreciate y'all rocking with us. And yeah, till the next time. Y'all stay easy.
Shout out Swell Day, Dizon, T
Hey,
Smooth, Blake
hey,
BE, Westside Vidlu,
I,
No ID,
I,
Sos, Rams,
I,
NOC.
I.
It goes on and on and on. You already know.
Bulla, 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 bulla.